Ksenija, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you. Question number one, what are you passionate about in life?
I think if I had to round it into like one word, I think wellness would be probably the one that comes to mind first. But I think it has a lot of different shelves to it. There are so many aspects to wellness, and I think certain things maybe people don't think of as something that can be related to wellness. But if I think of the things that I get most excited about, it's definitely food, so nutrition, eating the way that can support my wellness. Something that I call, or, there's a concept of primary food and secondary food. So primary food is something that is off our plate. So it's not necessarily food that we eat. It is the things outside of our food, like your lifestyle, your work, your mental health, your spirituality, things like that. So all those things are part of your wellness and kind of nutrition but from the outside. But then there's also secondary food, which is exactly what is on your plate and what you eat on a daily basis. So I'm kind of passionate about all of those things and how I can find an equilibrium between all of them. Of course, fitness has been a big part of my life. I teach Pilates, and that is a weekly thing for me. I teach it every week. I practice it myself. I try to include other disciplines into my life. And of course, self massage. It has been a massive part of my life. It has really changed my life in many different ways, and something that I try to inspire people to incorporate into their daily routines, because it is very simple. It doesn't require anything but, some clean hands and a clean face, but it can affect your mental health in an incredible, profound way. It can affect your physical kind of, the feeling of how you relate to your own body, what kind of relationship you have with your own body in a very interesting way. And it's just like that moment of calm where you can jump off the hamster wheel and have a little bit of me time. But yeah, I think I've kind of like I'm running off with a lot of different thoughts. But if I had to put it in one word, then probably wellness.
Yeah, for sure. Jumping off the hamster wheel of day-to-day life is
Mm.
such a challenge, but it's so important to avoid getting burnt out and to actually be present in the moment. It's so important, but so difficult to do. But would you say that wellness has been something that's always been present in your life, or was there an epiphany of like, oh my goodness, I actually need to
Yeah.
sort things out?
Maybe a little bit of both. I mean, when I was younger, I used to be in like a dance group, and it was something that I did like 5 times a week when I was at school, and it was very much about maybe more about community than the physical side to it. But it definitely was kind of a part of my life. And to be fair, I think my upbringing, my mom inspired me quite a lot when it came to self-care, like when it comes to skincare, and my beauty journey definitely is somewhat inspired by my younger years, because my mom used to brew chamomile tea and put it into little ice cubes, and then she would sit there like rolling a little chamomile ice cube on her face, or she would make all this like homemade masks and oil my hair and things like that. So I think, without kind of realizing back then, wellness was already a part of my life then. But then I think when I was at university, I went to university in Finland, and when I moved there, I stopped any physical activity, as you kind of do when you leave school. I was, obviously living my best student life, eating whatever I could afford, which wasn't much. And, it was very much quite, quite like simple carb based diet. And obviously there was a lot of drinking. Like I said, just a happy student life. And I just remember seeing a picture of myself from a day on a lake that we were having in summer, and I just couldn't recognize like myself. It wasn't necessarily about how that I gained weight, which I did, but it's more just that is not how I still saw myself. And I think that's when I really started doing a lot of self kind of research and self education when it came to nutrition, and also physical activity, and kind of like some method was a little bit peculiar. Like I remember wrapping myself in cling film and putting under the cling film, I would make this mixture of olive oil, cayenne pepper, and cinnamon, because I was like, I have cellulite, I have to do something about it. So some method was a little bit peculiar, and also a little bit maybe coming from a wrong place, because it was based on image. But I think that was also because I was just getting into modeling, which is an industry that affects you in many ways when it comes to your body image and kind of self-worth, etc. But that's kind of the roots of it for sure. That's when I started to really get into food, get into my physical health, and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And are you into the natural remedies for skincare, like making your
Yes.
own masks and things, or like rather than chemicals? Do you try and avoid chemicals where you can?
I would say that there is a place for both. Because I do treatments on people, so I offer facial treatments, body treatments to people. I'm not tied to a particular brand. I have literally like drawers and drawers full of different products, and it ranges from super, super natural, almost like homemade, oils and tinctures, to something that is very lab created, it's very specific. It had like years and years of research behind it. I think when it comes to skincare, I always kind of advise people the simpler the better. Unfortunately, social media affects us in a way that we tend to complicate it quite a lot. Let's all do a 7-step routine and a 10-step routine because it's going to give you, a glass skin. And it can, if you know exactly what you're using, but people tend to follow trends, which I have definitely done myself so many times. But I think simplicity is key, and you don't need a lot. You just need a couple of important kind of steps in your routine to achieve just skin health, because that will then give you the glow that people are after, or maybe reduce inflammation, or reduce breakouts and things like that.
And what do you think the fundamentals for the simple skincare routine
Mhm.
would be?
Yeah, I think definitely, I mean, cleansing is, it sounds obvious, but people sometimes think that if they wash it with water, or God forbid with soap, that kind of, it makes my heart kind of pound a little bit when I say certain things. Or, when people tell me about, do you remember the apricot scrub that used to be around, like with like really hard granules?
Yeah.
I think when they say things like that, my eye starts twitching a little bit. But definitely a good, gentle, hydrating cleanser. It doesn't have to be anything stripping. So I would say avoid anything that is too foaming. A cream cleanser is always better, because then it doesn't strip your skin of natural oils that you actually need for nourishment and hydration of your skin. A good moisturizer, which is really the key to a good moisturizer, or the job of a good moisturizer, is simply to lock kind of moisture in, protect you from environmental factors, and then a really good SPF. That is a daily, that is
Hmm.
it's non-conditional. It doesn't matter if it's a gray day in London, or if it's December, or if it's 30 degrees in July. You have to be using in my opinion, I would advise using an SPF every day, because the trend that I have definitely seen with people's skin is probably 70% of my clients come to me with some sort of sensitivity or reactivity to their skin. And that is most of the time due to either internal irritants when it comes to nutrition, or maybe some allergies that they're not aware of, or intolerances that they're not aware of. Or it could be just a complete lack of skin barrier, which people lose when they overstrip their skin, when they overexfoliate, which is a big trend. People were like bathing themselves in acid toners a couple of years ago. Yeah, I know.
It's wild. Yeah, I know. And it's so overwhelming because you just hear like you need to spend hundreds of pounds on all these different uh products to use and they all do different things, and you can't mix brands, or maybe you should mix brands, and people just end up with so many products that
Yes.
probably work against each other and actually make your skin really delicate. And
Mm.
it's so refreshing to hear someone be like, it's simple, do you know? And also
Yeah,
using like really simple remedies to use to fix your skin. Like, it's so important, rather than just putting all these
absolutely.
really harsh chemicals on, which actually, when you think about it, really can't be
Yeah.
beneficial at all.
Yeah, I mean, exfoliation is important. You have to help your cells to renew, and exfoliation is
Mhm.
important. But over exfoliation is it's a road to, to sensitivities, to redness, to rosacea, to just a lot of different kind of symptoms that then happen from it. But exfoliation is important. You just don't need to do it every day. You can do it once a week, twice a week, and it doesn't have to be like a peel, where you're sitting there for 20 minutes burning your, top layer off. It could be just a mild, toner that you can be using. So it really, you can still have those actives. So actives that, maybe it's vitamin C, maybe it is retinol if that's what you're into, maybe it is an acid, but you don't have to use them every day. So, and I so agree with you, it is a wildly oversaturated market. For somebody who, works with content creation and, has, let's call it the presence on social media or whatnot, I get so many PR packages. And I had to, about like a year and a half ago, I had to start saying no to half of them because A, the waste, B, it will take me 3 lifetimes to go through all the products. And also, I just don't need them. I can't put my skin through. I would have to use a new product every single day, if not a
Mhm.
couple of products. So I'm like, no, this is what I like. This is what I use. This is what works for my skin. And I have rosacea myself. So my skin is incredibly, incredibly reactive. It's like a proper teenager. One day she wakes up and she's great. She's happy. The other day she wakes up and she's just, it's me against the world.
Yeah, and switching products all the time will not do anything to help that.
No.
It's so interesting that you have all these PR packages with the expectation of posting them to your story or doing posts on
Mm.
Instagram, and then suddenly people who follow you and trust in your skincare advice are seeing you post from so many different brands, which
Yes,
then will feed into the whirlwind of you must get more and more and more. And then it just creates a
absolutely.
confusion. So yeah, it's so interesting that you
Yeah.
actually just have to say no. That's
Yeah,
not for
and
me.
I even, recently I kind of started just started a little series on my Instagram about what ingredients to look for in skincare rather than giving people like this is the product to use. I give a little kind of list of my favorite products that have that ingredient, but I think it's just so much easier when you're like, okay, I'm looking for that ingredient in my skincare rather than, seeing it's hard. Like I remember being that it's like a candy shop, you get overly excited, the packaging, the
Yeah,
marketing,
pick the
you know.
pretty packaging.
Yeah. I mean, I'm that girl. You take me to Space and K and I am, I go wild.
Exactly. I know it's so hard to look past it. But what
Yeah.
would you say that the role of nutrition then plays within the skincare game?
Oh my God, it is your gut is like literally directly connected to not only your skin but also to your brain. And it is such an incredible connection that people sometimes I think ignore. And the health of your gut, the microbiome of your gut will have the direct effect on your skin, because if you think of your skin is an organ as well. It is like second or third largest organ in your body, because we have so much surface of it. And we also have a microbiome of our skin, so there are also bacteria and little good guys and bad guys that live on our skin the same way as they live in our stomach or in our gut. And I think if you are constantly irritating your gut by eating maybe a lot of processed sugar, or we kind of all know what the bad guys are, but I also think that it's not about isolating yourself completely from those things. It's just about balancing. If I know that I just really want, a pizza and a can of Coke and, a chocolate bar on top, I will allow myself that if that's really what I want. But then that means that with my other meals that day and probably the day after, I will have to be balancing that out, because otherwise, it goes straight into your skin. But also, not just that, it goes into your energy levels. It affects, it affects your whole readiness kind of for the day, the food that we eat, because it is still fuel. And I think there is also such connection to what kind of food you eat when it comes to your skin health, because you can be feeding your skin from the inside rather than topically, because topically really all you need to do is protect and hydrate. But from the inside, you could actually be feeding your skin with, antioxidants that are rich in, different veggies. It could be like omegas that, in fish or nuts and things like that. Those are essential things for the health of your skin.
I actually love that. I've never thought about it that way, that you basically need to make sure your skin's moisturized and that you protect it from the sun.
Yeah.
But apart from that, people are spending hundreds and
Yeah.
hundreds of pounds on all of these products when actually, if they ate a balanced diet and got the nutrients that they need, they're probably going to have
Absolutely.
clear skin anyway. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's really, it is incredible. And I am that person. I have a lab in my bathroom, and it doesn't mean that I don't sometimes have a 5 and a 6-step routine, but on a daily basis my routine is my cleanser. Sometimes I use a serum, my moisturizer, and my SPF. So it's most of the times it's just 4 steps, but it is so much easier, and also it will have a much bigger effect on your whole body, on your whole well-being, on your mind, on your physical body, on your spiritual body, when you pick the right foods. And also I think a lot of people don't realize that there are certain foods that they might have even slight intolerances to. For example, dairy is a really big one. Also, eggs is actually quite a big one, but dairy especially, that can cause inflammation in the gut and cause inflammation in the skin. But of course, I would always advise to consult your doctor. You can get tests done, you can get food intolerances done, or you can keep a food diary. It is also an easy way to do it. It is a tiring way to do it because you have to be quite like regimented with it, but it is a great way to really track how you feel when you eat certain foods. How do you feel 30 minutes after the food? Do you just want to go for a nap, or are you full of energy? And what kind of reaction your skin is having to it. But as women as well, nothing is straightforward for us. Our hormones are not like this. What for men they go from up, down. For us, it's a roller coaster of cycling through different days. And I think that's also important to listen to where you are in your cycle and what kind of support you might need from external factors like food, exercise, rest as well.
And it's not a matter of beating yourself up about it. It's understanding your body and why it's feeling in certain ways, and being nice to yourself. Resting. Who would have thought resting is actually quite a good thing to do?
That's the one we don't allow ourselves enough. I mean, I have so I wear an Aura ring, so it tracks my like inactivity, so it advises me to be inactive, which I find incredibly difficult because I'm like I'm like a Duracell bunny most of the time. Not in my like energy, but just the fact that my days are full and I constantly find myself being like between doing things and being places. But sometimes I'm like, just sit down and do nothing for 5 minutes.
Are you a fan of the Aura ring?
I literally just got it, so I had it for literally a couple of days. I used to have an Apple Watch, so that did do a similar thing. So it tracks your heart rate and your exercise. The really good thing about the Aura is what I'm enjoying is the sleep. the tracking. It does give
Yeah,
you some really,
Apple's
really
not
good,
so accurate.
it's give you some really good insight into your sleep. And I feel like, you know, definitely me, but everyone, we need to prioritize sleep. It's literally the basis of like everything. And I think when you get the numbers, it's almost like there's no excuse. You're like, well, yeah, it told me, so I've got to rest.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. It's like the fundamentals for wellness is probably you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Like the first few steps in your morning routine. What are you eating? How are you moving? And how are you sleeping? Do you know?
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
simple.
I know. Well, and I also think that's exactly it. But I think it's about creating good habits.
Hmm.
Because, I remember people would, sometimes people would ask me, I get that question a lot online. And I think there's still a little bit of that kind of thinking process. How many calories you eat, what do you eat, how much you weigh. And I literally have no idea. Like, I haven't weighed, well, I probably did weigh myself recently, because when you go to a GP, they weigh you, etc. That's probably like the last time that I would weigh myself. um
Hmm.
but I just never ever look at those statistics. I always kind of look in the mirror. Do I kind of, am I happy what I see? Do I feel strong? Do I feel energetic? Do I feel fueled by the food that I eat? How's my skin, because it can be different every single day. But I think it's about being reactive to how you are feeling that day, and just creating little habits, little routines, just to drop into your day that are good. Sometimes, I'll take the dog for a walk and I'm a little bit hyped, like I'm a little bit on a fight and flight response. I just put a little meditation, like a walking meditation, into my headphones. And then I walk, and I force myself to do it, because I know that otherwise I'll be walking and I'll be thinking, what do I need to do? I need to do this, I need to do that. And then in the morning, of course, I still pick up my phone the first thing. I'd love to say that I don't, but I do, and it's just I don't know
Yeah.
how to get rid of it. But then when I do, and if I have like 5-10 minutes, again, I put like a guided meditation or some breath work, something simple. Like, it doesn't have to be, anything complex. And it's a good start to the day. And then I go and I have my water with some lemon, and then I already feel like I've done something good for my body. And then you just kick start that day really well, instead of kind of, again, like you said, beating yourself up about not doing something. It's not about, suddenly like changing your life around, because it's not sustainable. It's the
Hmm.
little changes that then can become sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you manage your nutrition through the week? Are you quite an intuitive eater, or do you
Mm.
have some plans that you try to stick to?
Yeah. So I'm definitely an intuitive eater, but I try to cycle sync. So I don't know if you know about the concept of cycle syncing. So cycle syncing is when you match kind of the foods to the stage of your cycle. So for example, when you are menstruating, you should be eating like iron rich foods. So we're talking about meat, maybe like offal if you're eating meat, but also eating a lot of fiber and things like that. And when, for example, I don't know, when you're ovulating, you want to be eating lighter foods and salads and colorful things. There's also different seeds, different nuts that you can eat. So in general, I mean, my nutrition is, I cook every day. I cook pretty much 3 times a day for us at home, and it is something that I take a lot of pleasure in sourcing food. So going to a market, going to a greengrocer, planning my meals. Like, recipe books are my bedtime read. Like, hand or heart, it's my favorite thing to do. Um, and like cooking and eating, we try to eat. If I kind of make it super basic, it is just a lot of fruit, veg, and meat. um,
Hmm.
a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of berries. They're wonderful antioxidants for your skin. I try to eat fish as much as I can, but that is definitely something that I would like to eat more of. And then whole grains. So I love I come from a culture where porridge is a big thing. Like we love porridge, but porridge for us is not just oats. We eat millet, buckwheat, things like that. So complex carbs are like that are really good. And then like wild rice, quinoas, and things like that. And I mean, of course, pasta is, it is my favorite thing. It brings me a lot of joy. So we do still eat a lot of pasta and things like that. I just try to balance it out with other things. Same thing with bread. We eat bread, but we don't buy shop bought bread. So we'll go to a bakery, buy a sourdough or maybe rye. I've actually just bought myself like a sourdough starter again. I used to bake bread,
Ooh,
but it is
amazing.
it is demanding. She needs feeding so
I
much.
know, right? It's like you suddenly make some bread and then you've got to feed the flipping starter all
Yeah,
over again,
it's like
and then
having a
it's dying.
baby. Honestly, my
I
dog
know,
asks
right?
for less.
Oh, honestly, and then somehow it doesn't end up rising, and you're like, why did I even
Yeah,
bother?
and then it dies on you, and I'm like, I've been feeding you for weeks.
So, my question is about protein intake because
Hmm.
a lot of women, especially people who are active and live an active lifestyle, don't get enough protein.
No.
And a lot of people aren't aware of it as well. What are your tips for getting enough protein, and what do you do in your everyday life to ensure that you do?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question because I do think that people don't get enough protein, but B, I think they underestimate the importance of having protein with every meal. So when you have a combination of protein, fat, and complex carbs all together in every meal, your glucose doesn't spike as much, which means your energy levels are quite nice. And, they will still rise, but they won't go up and then drop down, which means you will really feel like a nap. You will feel really tired. You won't really feel fueled. So I think having protein is really important. And I 100% agree with you that people don't really realize that. So what I try to do is, I mean, when it comes to lunch and dinner, I think that that's easier because, put some chicken, put some, throw some tuna into your salad or, something like that, or tofu, tempeh, any of the plant-based proteins. There are some, of course, proteins as well in, nuts and things like this. But I do take protein powders as well in my, sometimes I will put it in a smoothie in the morning or into my oats if I want a little bit more, especially if I worked out that morning, especially if I'm teaching that day. I have to supplement and it's just not enough.
Yeah, it's something that people really need to be aware of because you get so much benefit as well. If you're doing the hard work and doing the workouts and not actually replenishing with
Yeah.
protein, it's silly.
Absolutely. I also think, when people think of protein powders and stuff like that, protein powder it's like a topping to your meal. It's not a meal in itself. It is good to have, after you maybe had a workout or, something like that, but it's not a meal in itself. I think that's really important to kind of note as well, because it just doesn't give you enough nutrients unless it's like a super, super powered smoothie, with like
Yeah.
an avocado in it and a scoop of oats and all of that, then maybe. But protein is hard. But even things like, skyr or kefir, like Greek yogurts, they have protein in them as well. So I think just trying to add those things into your diet, even if you're just, topping something or, adding a spoonful of something to a meal, it already counts. The same thing with like seeds and nuts. I think people underestimate the fact that they are plants as well. And I think, there's the kind of research that, you should be eating like 30 plants a week, and that sounds overwhelming. Like, oh my God, 30 plants, that sounds like a crazy amount. But if you make yourself a little jar that has sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame, chia, I don't know, some walnuts, that's 5 plants in 1 teaspoon. So little like tricks like that, I think, can be really, really helpful. And just eating a lot of fiber. Fiber is so amazing for your gut. So vegetables, leafy greens, all that stuff.
Exactly. Get a good recipe book out and it suddenly will seem a lot easier.
I know, exactly. Exactly.
And you're a Pilates teacher as well. How did you get into the world of Pilates?
Funnily enough, it was actually just before the first COVID. I was gonna do my yoga teacher training, so I was signed up, ready to go. It was meant to be happening in Thailand. I was quite excited because at the time then I was practicing a lot of yoga. I was practicing Pilates as well, but yoga was quite dominant in my kind of workout routine. And then COVID happened. It was just kind of the beginning when things started to get cancelled and delayed, etc. So my training got cancelled, and I thought, I was living in Manchester back then, and I thought, well, that's not happening. Is there something I can do locally? And I wasn't necessarily wanting to do it to teach. I just wanted to do it for myself. And the same thing actually happened with beauty therapy. So I became a therapist a long time ago, but I didn't practice it for a while because it wasn't my intention. So then I ended up doing a Pilates teacher training in Manchester. And I did the training. And even though the training itself was pretty basic, I get that question a lot. Where did you do your training? Because I think when people come to my classes or they've been to my classes, they think that it's quite different from classical Pilates. I teach quite a dynamic practice. And oh my God, so many classical Pilates teachers will throw stones at me right now. But I love what I teach because it's a practice that I would like to practice. So I decided to teach the way that I teach because it is the class that I would want to attend. And I decided to offer something that is a little bit more fast-paced and a little bit more a mixture of, it just has like a sprinkling of bar, a sprinkling of maybe some body weight training, just a little bit here and there that I think makes it a little bit just more fun, that I really enjoy. I remember going to a couple of Pilates classes and I was thinking, this discipline has so much potential, but it is often, not always of course, taught in such a boring way. And it can be so fun. So fun.
And how do you structure your classes when you're planning them?
Good question. I do not. That is a great question. I get that question quite a lot from when me and other teachers chat. We always kind of say, oh, how much prep do you do? Do you prep? Do you plan your classes? I used to. When I started teaching, of course, I used to, it was like a foreign thing to me. What am I doing? What am I supposed to say? What should I put after what? So I would have a little book and, I would have this little like blocks of exercises that, are in the same position. So, you're staying on, I don't know, your forearms in a kneeling position. So how many exercises I can do from there. So you end up doing like 7. So you have these little blocks, but then with time, and it happened pretty quickly, I just kind of abandoned that, but there is a structure in my head. So definitely, when people just come to class and, the class starts, it's about bringing the people into the room, just connecting to your breath, just, taking a little moment to just find a little bit of balance, like leave the outside world behind the door and just arrive into the practice itself. And then it's about slowly getting the fire started. And, it kind of is like that. I usually start standing in my classes, and it's something that I really enjoy because I find it a little bit more like empowering, and then you kind of ground yourself when you go down to the mat. But yeah, it's whatever comes to my mind, I will throw. But it's still, it's still blocks of exercises in my head. It's like a little Jenga that I just, put together in every class. But no class is the same when I teach, and I quite like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It keeps it fresh for you and for people who are doing your class.
Yes.
So what are the differences between yoga and Pilates then?
So, I mean, yoga is definitely a much more spiritual practice. It has a lot of spiritual meaning. It has, a lot of, how would I call it? Not, maybe teachings. There are a lot of teachings that support yoga, whereas Pilates is a it really is a purely physical practice, but we do incorporate breath centering. So you want to, you want to find center, you want to do everything with intention, there's control, but it is a much more physical practice than it is a mixture of spiritual and physical. So, there would normally be, meditation involved in a yoga class. And, sometimes you're working with chakras and aligning your chakras. Whereas in Pilates, we work with the spine, your muscles, your joints, and your core. So how to really strengthen your core to support your whole body, how to work with engaging and also relaxing your pelvic floor, which is a big one, because people have either a very weak pelvic floor or a very overactive pelvic floor. So it's about finding that balance. And because all those things, they're literally all in the center of our body. That's what supports our whole structure. Your all your limbs are attached to this space in the middle. So I think Pilates is, I am that person who's always like, it's the best practice. Pilates is the best practice. It is, it is strengthening, it is lengthening, it is also, it can be stretching. But it is, it is so wonderful for your body and for your whole kind of skeletal system.
So you wanted to be a yoga instructor, but now you've ended up being Pilates. Has Pilates overtaken the love of yoga then? Is it P1?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. When I did the training and I started teaching, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh my God, this was my practice all along. Like, this was, I was meant to do this. Yoga was never, it is something that I still really enjoy practicing. But I just realized that it's not what I should be teaching. And I think, there are a lot of people who go to trainings and they might love the practice and practicing that discipline, but then they go and teach a training and they're like, I definitely don't want to teach. Definitely not. It's just not what I want to do. And I think, yeah, it definitely overtook, and I am through and through a Pilates girl, but I still love yoga. I think in combination, they're fantastic. Like you need more than just Pilates. You need high intensity training to kind of support your heart, your lungs. You need strength training to build more muscle, because muscle mass is really important. And you need yoga for that kind of flow, because it really is a great way to kind of lubricate your joints. Yoga is beautiful for that. But there is just a lot, I think, that yoga could have a little bit more core support that we offer in Pilates.
Yeah, like Pilates, it really burns you. Like they say, that's why it tones up, do you know? But if you're a runner, a cyclist, or you're doing a lot of cardio, it's so important to restore your muscles as well. So not only stretch them, but strengthen them and do those small movements and the body movements, because so much benefit can be done with body weight. It's crazy.
100%. You do not have to be dragging like 20-kilo kettlebells around. It's not about that. Body weight is, you can do a lot with it. But I do think that there's definitely, and something that I want to personally do more of is definitely strength training, because for kind of longevity, it is something that is good to do. And the muscle mass is important for also for your nutrition. It's really important. And kind of doing the right exercises. But I also think, when people ask me, how do you exercise, what do you do, and I always say, you have to find your discipline. I mean, your cycle, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's about finding the discipline that you can sustain. I hate running. Like, I hate it. Like, I'm not afraid to say it, but I just do not do very well with running at all. So I try to find a different discipline that will offer me, a cardio training, but the one that I at least enjoy. Because if I don't enjoy it, I won't sustain it. I won't go again. I won't do it regularly. So you have to go and like sign yourself to a gym that offers 10 different classes or maybe 15 different disciplines. Try them all and see what, what like hit the spot, what filled your love tank. And continue with that, because any movement is better than no movement. So it's about finding yours.
Exactly. And it's not a punishment. That's what a lot of people seem to treat exercise as. Like, oh,
Hmm.
I've got to go on my run now, even though you hate running. It's like,
Yeah,
well, why don't you go to a dance class
yeah,
or Pilates or
yeah.
anything?
Or
Do you know?
like do stay at home and have a little jump around, like put a music on
Yeah.
and shake and dance, or put your TV on and just, I don't know, hold a plank for 5 minutes. Anything is better than nothing. Like I always think that, but you just have to be, I do think what I think people should learn more of is just body awareness. It's being aware of your body.
Mhm.
And just because somebody on Instagram told you that doing 100 crunches a day will give you a flat stomach, I mean, A, not gonna happen just because you're doing that but nothing else. But B, it might not be good for you. It might be not good for your, if you have like lower back issues or something like that, then it's
Mhm.
about supporting that first before you're going into other modes of training, because so
It's
many
so
people have.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because like crunches, if you're like a cyclist, you spend a lot of time bent over a bike, the worst thing you can do is then do crunches because you're
yeah,
just bending that, arching that back again. Whereas if you're in
yeah,
a plank, you're lengthening your
yeah,
spine. If you're a runner, there'll be so many different exercises that you need to strengthen, mainly your
absolutely,
knees. um,
absolutely.
you need to think about it completely. It's
Yeah,
so important. And it's not like you just follow Instagram reels of what everyone else is doing. What works for you? What does your body feel like when you're
I
going to
know.
be doing that?
And that's why I think, I obviously, I have Pilates classes on my YouTube. I have little reels of like little workouts on my Instagram. But if you can go and get a one-to-one with someone, and somebody that is close to you, a Pilates teacher, a PT that is good, and really explain what you want, like what is your goal? Do you just want to go for a workout to clear your mind? Do you have goals when it comes to your physical appearance? What is it that you want? And I think having that one-to-one and then working on your alignment, working on your like control, it will give you amazing basis to exercising by yourself. Because I can exercise by myself because I know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And that might sometimes means that instead of a burpee, I will step into the burpee, or something like that, because I know that personally for me it works better. So I'm not competing with myself or with somebody else to do, like who does
Mhm.
it better kind of thing. But I think working on your I keep thinking of a word, but it just um doesn't come to me. But yeah, working on your form is the
Yeah,
word. Form is really important, because then you can take so many exercises and do them at home if you know what you're doing.
exactly. What do you enjoy doing and what can you fit into your day as well? It's so much better to be consistently good rather than occasionally great. So if you're going to do a really hard hit workout every Sunday morning, but nothing else through the week, why
Yeah,
don't you do like a speed walk 3 times a
absolutely.
week
Yeah,
and a
and
bit of Pilates? Yeah, you've said you've got them on YouTube, you've got them on
mm,
Instagram reels. Like people don't have an excuse to say, oh, I can't, I
yeah,
live rurally, I don't have
yeah.
that, or I don't have time.
Absolutely. And also, whatever that exercise is for you, maybe you do just kind of, you can do exercises in bed. Like that's the thing. You can literally move your body in so many different ways. And like I always say, get up and shake and like dance and jump. Like dancing is such a endorphin booster, but also it's actually it's good for you physically. So yeah, doing something is always better. And little little portions of exercise sometimes is better every day or every other day than doing like, oh, I'm going to go and smash a hit for 1 hour on a Wednesday and that's my workout of the week.
Exactly. What's the hardest thing about being a Pilates teacher?
Well, I think if it comes to classes or group trainings, it's finding ways to include everyone. Because if we have a class and it's 15 people, and you will get all sorts of different levels. There will be people with injuries. There will be people who are expecting modifications. And I think that it can be difficult because you have to consider so many people. But that's why I always advise going for a one-to-one at least once or twice, because then you are almost aware yourself of what modifications you need, because in a class environment, it's very difficult to keep an eye on everyone. And it's very difficult to kind of check on everyone's form and making sure they understand the exercise. So in a group setting, definitely that is the hardest, just trying to be inclusive and compassionate to everybody's levels and everybody's situations. But also
Yeah.
just the other thing is just fitting your own exercise in when you teach. And I'm sure that a lot of like fitness instructors and anybody that teaches any kind of sport is fitting your own exercise, because sometimes you feel like, well, I taught, for example, yesterday I taught 4 classes. So when I teach 4 classes, do I feel like I had my workout, or do I still feel like working out? Well, I don't feel like working out, definitely. And most of the times I don't really feel like working out for a day or two. So that's when I try to think, okay, well, I don't feel like, doing a strength or a cardio training. So I'm going to do like 20 minutes yoga flow. That's all I've got in me, but at least I'm going to do that. Or maybe I'm doing yin yoga, which is literally mean I am in a child's pose, or like lovely stretches and lovely soft things for half an hour, because those things are just as important. Recovery is just as important as, like you said, if you're cycling, recovery is just as important, and supporting your muscles, supporting your joints in those ways, and stretching things that shorten, and elongating things is important.
And that's literally just listening to your body. Do you know? It's as simple as that. Like, you don't want to be doing that, but you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do something because that's where discipline comes in.
Yeah.
But you're
And
not
also,
forcing yourself to hate it.
yeah. And your body gives you clues all the time. Like, that's the thing. Intuition is like, it's not just about, I predict, or, or my intuition tells me I shouldn't go there or I shouldn't do that. It's also just being in tune, intuitive, in tune with your body and listening to those clues. Like, if I get up and I just, that's it. Like, I am drained, I'm a wet rag, like I don't want to do anything, then forcing myself into doing like crazy training, sometimes it's good, sometimes it can work and clear your head, but sometimes, like I say, something a bit more relaxing, a little bit more like a recovery, can do exactly the same. Or lying in a child's pose for 10 minutes can do exactly that too. And I think just being, a little bit more in tune with your body is the way. It's the way. When do I need rest when you need it, and when you're ready for some activity, get it.
And maintain your posture is such an important thing, especially when we spend so much time bent over computers at our desks. So everyone who's listening to this, what would be the tips you would give for them to improve their posture like super easily right now?
So one thing I always say to people in my classes is, if the back of your head is in line with your shoulder blades and your tailbone, then you're probably sitting or standing pretty well. So you want to be like in an alignment. But with posture, I think posture obviously is tricky. We do, the tiredness of the day, the activities of the day get to us. We want to hunch forward. So it's just becoming more aware of shoulders back, shoulders down, and just that simple move of pushing your shoulders back and down will open up through the chest and like open up through the and open through your back. But it's there are exercises you can do that work with almost lengthening your chest muscle and kind of shortening the back a little bit, because now it's the opposite. We're shortening the front and we're lengthening the back. That's why we're all punching forward. But it's just training your own mind. When you catch yourself hunching over or like going forward, just to sit in upright. But it's not easy. It's not easy because it's a natural thing for you to do when you are when you're working or your mind is somewhere else. But I think it's just about training your mind to just notice it. I do that, for example, when I'm frown. So I tend to, when I'm really in a deep thought, I frown quite a lot. And I've literally trained myself to show a lot of emotion through my face, but little through my forehead. So I can be really expressive, but my forehead won't move much because it was causing me pain. Like it was so tense how much I was frowning. I was frowning in my sleep. I was literally would catch myself frowning in my sleep. And there was so much tension between my brows. So now when I catch myself doing that, I'm like, relax, I'll massage my forehead and between my brows, and it helps. So it's just about, again, it's little habits. It's habits that become then a natural thing to you.
Yeah. And do a lot of people who come to you for skincare help, do they have concerns about aging and ask about anti-aging remedies? What do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is, there isn't, I don't think, hand on heart, there isn't many people who are not concerned about, it's not about preventing aging. For me, I just think it's about aging in the most natural way and the most kind of, gracefully, in a way. How can I age the happiest, the glowest? Is that a word? I don't know. Maybe I just invented it. Self. And I think, of course, people are always saying, how can I reduce lines? How can I reduce wrinkles? How can I, keep the contour and the oval of my face? Especially as, a lot of my YouTube videos they're specifically targeted to certain things that people will ask for. And most of the times it is lines, wrinkles, necklines, double chin, things like that. So, what do I advise? It is a question of a full lifestyle. There's no pill to do it for you. There's no cream, and I'm telling you that there is no cream that is going to erase all your lines and wrinkles. There are fantastic creams that will support your skin and will support, your skin barrier, and will almost act as a little filler from the inside. But it's about collagen in your skin, and you want to stimulate collagen. And to stimulate collagen in your skin, you want to promote blood flow. You want to promote the flow of the nutrients to your skin, which for me is a no-brainer. It's massage. You can massage your skin, you can manipulate it, but you don't have to, go crazy. Again, less is more sometimes, just a little bit. When you're doing your skincare routine in the morning, when you're washing your face, instead of just kind of stroking yourself and then washing it off, get your knuckles in there, massage, release the tension in the muscles, get that blood flow going, and get the fresh nutrients, fresh blood to the surface of the skin, feed the skin from the inside. And of course, hydration. You've got to hydrate from the inside and out. So water, drinking enough water and hydrating your skin topically is really important. And there are supplements, but again, no magic cure. But for me, omegas are quite a big one when it comes to skin, hair, and things like that. And with the skincare routine, simple but the one that works for you. It just has to, and skin is such a, it is such a simple thing to find a good skincare routine, in my opinion, because your skin gives you immediate feedback. It is immediate. It either works or it doesn't work.
Yeah, so true. It's so overcomplicated, but when you say it like that, just listen to your body. Like, what is it saying?
There we go.
Do you know? Yeah, exactly. So how can people follow you online and check these amazing YouTube videos out?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, of course. On Instagram, I am the_moments, and on YouTube, I am the moments, one word. And yeah, I post all sorts of content, but on Instagram, it is mostly, I post massage reels, I post some like tips, tricks when it comes to skin, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to wellness. I'm currently doing my health coach qualification, so I'm doing even more nutritional studies, which is really, really exciting because it's something that I wanted to do, but that's just not where life took me. And on YouTube, you will find lots of real time, long routines where you can sit down and spend 10 minutes with me, massaging your face, and I talk you through it. And there are also Pilates workouts on my YouTube as well.
Amazing. And where do you teach Pilates in London? If anyone
Yeah,
wants
so I teach a block in Clapton. So currently that's the only place that I'm teaching. And I'm there on Mondays. So come see me if you're in London.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining today, Ksenija. That was such an interesting discussion, and I guess it's just all about balance, listening to your body, like simplifying it. What are you putting into your body as well as what you're putting on your skin? Finding
Absolutely.
movements that support you, that empower you, that you enjoy, that you can fit into your routine, and caring for your body. It's your friend. Sorry to be
Exactly.
cheesy, but it's your friend.
It is, but we only have one shell. This is our shell where the rest of our, mind lives, and we've only got one, so you might as well make the most of it.
Incredible. Thank you so much for joining today.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.